Welcome back to Millennium Live, where we bring you the conversations with some of the brightest minds that are shaping the future of business and transforming the digital enterprise. I'm your host of Millennium Live, Connor Toohey, and today we've got a great episode, our transformational CRO assembly this week. We thought it'd be a great idea to bring on a guest and a partner that is transforming this space as we're diving into one of the most transformative shifts happening in the enterprise world, and that's the rise of agentic AI in go-to-market organizations. Joining us is co-founder and CEO of Databook, which is a company at the forefront of AI innovation for enterprise go-to-market teams. Databook is a sales intelligence platform that uses AI to help businesses improve sales and customer relationship. Anand Shah is here. I'd like to welcome him to the podcast. Anand, it's great to have you here, and thanks for taking the time out of your day to talk with Millennium Live and head of the CRO assembly this week.
Thanks for having me, Connor. Great to be here and looking forward to this conversation. Should be fun.
Yes, it will. Just to give a little sneak peek to our audience, with the digital workforce officially joining humans in the enterprise ecosystem, I think there's never been a more exciting or maybe uncertain time for businesses, and that's why we gather at Millennium Alliance events and other cohorts that host meetings where we could talk about all the technology and all the emerging trends that are happening. But for this podcast, we're definitely going to be talking about the human machine workforce and what that really looks like in go-to-market teams and how agentic AI is really poised to reshape enterprise sales and what enterprises should really know about getting started on this journey if they haven't already when it comes to emerging technology. And plus, Anand's going to share how Databook is leveraging AI to empower organizations and really deliver those tangible results and those tangible outcomes. So, I think we should dive right in. This is the first year that digital workers have again joined the human workforce, and we're just getting started. So we often hear about this in the context of customer service, in that area of bots and whatnot. But what does this mean now, where we have this human plus machine workforce? What does that look like in terms of enterprise go-to-market teams? And are we looking at replacing people, enhancing people's capabilities, or of course, maybe both?
Yeah, Connor, I think that's a great place to start. And there's a lot of popular press that's been going on for many, many years around AI is going to replace people and we won't have to work anymore. We won't have any jobs. I think that's a little bit far from the truth. And the reality is we've been through a ton of technology revolutions over the last few decades. And the reality is we always tend to find new ways to go and do new types of work. If I just take like some examples from the 1980s, where there was a lot of concern where ATMs were going to be automating a lot of the typical routine teller functions that you might find in a bank, like cash withdrawals or check deposits. The reality is that we now have way, way more bank tellers in the US alone. I think it grew from like nearly 300,000 in 1980 to over 600,000 by 2010. Now they're doing a lot more higher value work. They're doing things like mortgages, personal loans, investments. It requires more relationship managers, loan officers, tech professionals. And so it's really upskilled the work that's being done versus just providing cash over the counter or receiving it. Another example would be in the automotive industry, where we've seen industrial robots that look a lot like today's digital agents. They were taking on more and more tasks like welding or painting or parts assembly in the automotive plants. And again, one of those aspects where there was a concern for workers and what they would be doing next. Employment grew over the last 15 years from about 600,000 people working in the automotive industry to over 1 million just in the manufacturing, based on the US Bureau of Labor Statistics. And so I think we're going to see something very similar here. Rather than humans being replaced, we're probably going to see that humans using AI are going to probably replace those who aren't. So it's really more about just a continuation of the need for productivity. And then to bring the example back to areas that we're focused on one of our customers. It's one of the top three HR software companies in the world. They before starting with Databook a couple of years ago, it used to take them several weeks. Their estimate was around 5 to 6 weeks to prepare effectively for a CXO meeting. A lot of what they do is focused on benchmarking of the data around how the company performs and how they can improve their overall employee productivity. When they started using our platform a couple of years ago, it took them 2 weeks to go and do that. They just reported using our new Databook AI platform that they're doing this now in 2 minutes. And so the idea of shifting from weeks down to minutes is massive. And then that means there's a huge opportunity for increased productivity. It means more meetings. And so I think that's what we're probably going to look at. The currency of sales as meetings, and get their ability to now go and secure more meetings and prepare for more meetings and be effective in those meetings is where AI can be a huge benefit for folks and teams who are starting to adopt these and accelerate into that.
Right. So I think key things there are productivity and efficiency. And we talk a lot about AI on this podcast, and it's pretty much it covers every industry that Millennium does. That AI is transforming so much. We talk about agentic AI. I've kind of heard that term now for a couple of months. So, I mean, we could even kind of decide what that is and how it's transforming businesses right now. So if you could, Anand, talk a little bit about really what the major differences are with agentic AI, but also how it's transforming the future of sales, and the go-to-market organizations within the next few months, year, or even 5 years.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, so I mean, I think, look, we've come from a very long history in the software market, best part of 50 years. Microsoft, I think, around 50 years, and they were one of the first to really create the enterprise software business. And a lot of that was built on CRUD databases where you would go and form fill, you would pull out a drop down, you go into some information, it'd be sitting somewhere in a repository. It's a very rigid structure, and it created a deterministic output for customers so that they can make sure across their workforce everything was completed in a specific systematic operation. So very helpful in one regard, but it also required humans to bend to the idiosyncrasies of technology. We all had to go into learning various systems, whether it was CRM systems or it was some kind of an email client, or it was some kind of a conversational intelligence. There's a lot of different systems that we've all had to adopt and get into. When we think about where the future is going, and no one better than the CEO of Microsoft, Satya Nadella, who gave an interview back in December, he predicted their demise. So he's basically saying that even though he's got thousands, I would probably say millions of seats, which they're charging customers on a seat basis, he's expecting that they're going to all go away in the next few years. He's already generating billions of dollars. So the fact that he's cannibalizing his own business with agentic AI is incredible. What does that really mean? So where humans were going in to go do that form filling, agents will go and complete tasks to go and enter information on behalf of the user. As an example, we could be having this conversation right now. It could be recorded, it can be transcribed. The key aspects of our conversation around talking points or next steps can be easily categorized and then automatically entered into the system. It doesn't require the human to then go do the actual filling. They're still in control, so they can confirm, they can edit, but the authoring and the first aspect of that can be done by another system. And as we think about one agent just capturing meeting notes, you can have another agent which is preparing you for a meeting. You can have another agent that's actually going out and supporting other individuals who are preparing analysis that goes into an account plan. And so you have a multi-agent system that are combining towards a workflow, all focused around, are you spending time on the highest value opportunities, on the highest value accounts across the business? And from a go-to-market perspective, as I think about the next few years, we're going to be shifting way faster into higher levels of go-to-market productivity. Just to give you a couple of stats on productivity. It's a really, really serious issue in the industry over the last 3 years in particular, as we've seen interest rates around the world go higher and have been sustained to be higher. That's had a downwards impact on the valuations of a lot of software companies, professional services companies in a lower growth environment. And so what a lot of organizations are trying to do now is figure out how do they maximize their yield and their optimization for all of the costs that are going into sales and marketing and demand generation. How do they drive a higher top line growth in their business? And so we're seeing a lot of focus really on that. And so that's where agentic AI is going to play a big part, not just addressing the 5 to 7% of costs that go into technology, but addressing the 85% of the cost base of a typical go-to-market team from sales or marketing, solution consulting, value engineering, customer success, BDR roles. All of that can be optimized. Today, only 30% of time is spent selling, and that also includes 9% of time prospecting. So some of the biggest areas where agentic workflows are going to have a huge impact are going to be around quote generation, proposals, researching prospects, prioritizing leads, preparing and planning for meetings that I mentioned earlier, manually entering CRM data. All of those areas contribute about another 50 to 60% of the time that's being spent in the go-to-market. And a lot of that is routine, it's tedious, difficult to accomplish. And so this will allow organizations to put a lot more focus back on the customers going forward. And just to wrap up the question then, in the coming year, I'd say here in 2025, I see a lot of companies just focused on automating today's tasks to increase in productivity. What they could do, as I mentioned earlier, with that HR software company, what took one person several days or maybe even weeks, they can now do in minutes. So they'll do a lot more of the same task. By next year, I can see a whole family of tasks being taken on by a group of agents. In 5 years, I can imagine folks in the go-to-market team doing a lot of very, very different things, but it's probably a lot more consultative, frontline management, like a wealth manager might do, in terms of having a deeply personal relationship with dozens of customers and being able to do that on an intimate basis because they've got support to be able to personalize their message every single time.
Yeah, right. I mean, right now we're in first week of March 2025, so just almost wrapping up Q1. It's going to be amazing what this is what we're talking about in a year from now, Anand. But at this moment, it seems like everyone is talking at least about and the potential of agentic platforms for the enterprise right now. But of course, not all emerging technology will survive. As you mentioned, as Microsoft CEO has mentioned, it some emerging technology does not move past the hype cycle. What's the biggest differentiators when it comes to this in this space? How fast will this differentiation occur?
Look, I think we've got sort of two big things here. We've got the horizontal platforms, and then you have the domain-specific vertical platforms. So I think horizontal and then sort of vertical overall. Both have their virtues, and I'm expecting just a handful of the horizontal ones to dominate. Probably Agentforce, probably Microsoft Copilot Studio overall across the go-to-market that supports all of the different use cases. There may be something coming from Google Gemini, hasn't quite come through yet. But just thinking about where a lot of the sales operations administrators have already bet big on a Salesforce or a Dynamics CRM, and they already have integrations that go back into collaboration spaces like a Slack or in a Teams. That's probably why my suspicion is that a lot of those the few horizontal platforms will win there. I think then what we're going to see is then really where's the big moment of truth coming for SaaS applications, and it's around the monetization models. As I mentioned earlier, a lot of that seat-based licensing is probably going to go away, especially in the future where you have digital agents. How do you charge by seat when you have a digital agent doing a lot of work for an individual? So, just let's take an example in a parallel industry, but related customer support. There are literally hundreds of customer support agents today, and there's a lot of different organizations that solve this with software. The number one biggest challenge has always been interpretation of the problem and then the ability to deflect calls or support tickets away from humans so that it can be automated. And until now, pretty much the main way of addressing this through was just by some level of um, uh, automated, discrete decision tree logic. What we're seeing going forward now is some companies that are emerging with outcome-based pricing, which literally will then deflect the entire call, the entire conversation that would have otherwise taken an individual to go and do. So they can now focus on more higher end tasks that support customers, maybe even different levels of the pay scale. So I see a similar world in go-to-market applications. Companies who are going to be able to shift to an outcome-based, consumption-based model are going to probably win going forward, rather than where the numbers of seats in the past have been an important mechanism for monetization.
One of the things that I like to, have our guests share is their just not only their expertise, but good pieces of advice, especially when it comes to potentially organizations that have yet to start this journey. So, Anand, what's your advice, specifically to enterprises and leaders who are looking at how to get started with agentic AI for go-to-market organizations?
Start today. Like literally just jump in. I mean, I'm not talking about just like go to Chat GPT and ask a question. Look at your routine, work with your sales ops person, figure out how you can automate 20 to 30% of your routine work. So, as an example, do you have a Slack or a Teams group? And do you have messages coming to you daily or weekly, identifying key risks in the pipeline? If you don't, great place to go start, hook in the systems to understand what's in the pipeline to give you that insight. Also, opportunities, find out ways to go and provide new opportunities to your sales teams. Start small, start with the more predictable workflows that you can. Think about executive briefs. Today, we often have individuals preparing that. If you want, go try OpenAI deep research as an example to see how you can get a daisy chain of web searches to bring you back a comprehensive report. Can be very quick of doing that. Another aspect would be, kick off a hackathon, join forces with the product and engineering teams, run a 2 day or sort of 24, 48-hour hackathon, see what your teams can cook up. We actually did this ourselves. If anyone would be interested in learning more about it, I'm happy to put in touch with our CTO for the playbook and how to do that. We did it in December, and we had a spiff for our teams working together. It was a great collaboration exercise. And just as we get off to our board meeting, we then had the 12 teams present for 5 minutes with their ideas. And you know what? These projects all started to help very, very quickly. We're actually coming out of that hackathon. One of our CS team members or group of CS and sales team members found a way to spot latent demand for accounts that our customers wanted. They've automated that now, and it's we're using it as a way to increase our net dollar retention rates with our customers by 10 to 15%. So just get started now. You can't probably go too wrong, and you'll realize what's working, what could be improved, what are the limitations, and where do you need a fully integrated first party, third party data experience.
Yeah, well, I would love to know more about Databook, because from what I already know, your whole team, Anand, is the reason why you're a leader in this space is because of the incredible work that you're doing over there. So, would love to know about more about the mission of Databook, and curious how you are utilizing AI for the innovative ways that you are actively uh, bringing AI and agentic AI to the business.
Yeah, I mean, look, I've been in enterprise sales in some form or fashion now for over my third decade now, like 25 years ish. And when I think about the work that I've been very fortunate to be involved in over the last 15 years, it's always been around how can we unlock more value for business and for society. And before starting Databook with my co-founder Alex, I used to work at Accenture for 15 years. And one of the things that I learned over there, spending a lot of time with Fortune 500 CXOs, was the need for speed and the ability to understand the customer's business deeply, understand their industry value drivers, deeply understand what they're currently doing to address that, and spot ahead of the curve where there may be opportunities to do more, to do things faster, and to be able to be a trusted advisor, to the business. to those companies. And so we've really brought a lot of that ethos into Databook. It's already around how do we unlock that value for our customers, but our customers unlock value for their customers. So as one of the examples, I can't name the company that we were customers we work with, but they work with a lot of banks globally. One of the use cases is in the Midwest where they were helping a regional bank improve their loan approval rates. And we're just so excited about the way in which they were able to translate a relationship that was otherwise stuck in IT and with the CIO, but they were able to bridge the gap between what the business required in the retail mortgage business and what their consumers required, which was faster mortgage approvals. And that has overall improved the consumer experience. It's improved the customer's experience and the value that they're generating. And we've been able to unlock some of that. Another example will be with Starbucks. And we're very excited to see all sorts of really interesting innovations. You may have been to a Starbucks corner recently and you found there was some pistachio, cold foam, cold brew, something on the menu. And these types of innovations are all part of what they started about 5 years ago with their data science team called Deep Brew. We've been able to support companies who have been working with them on that Deep Brew initiative. And a third and last example I'll just give is maybe like Costco. A lot of us go shopping at Costco, and they have big TVs. They have a lot of goods in their warehouses. Their whole goal is low prices. But in order to provide those low prices, they also are driving for improved sustainability in their entire supply chain, where they buy their products from, where they get manufactured, how they ship them, how they transport them, how they put them in the warehouse, how they stock them. And we work with organizations who support them through that entire supply chain to lower the overall emissions that go through the supply chain. So I think that's really core to our mission to help our customers unlock value that in turn unlocks value for business and society. And we're going to continue doing that through everything we do.
That's awesome. That's awesome. It's great to, again, talk to you about some of the incredible examples that you're already giving. I love the case studies, the examples, because it does show the true value of how you're making an impact. And with AI evolving daily, it seems like it's always good to be planning ahead. And so how are you and the data book team planning ahead to create that value, to create that most effective product roadmap for your customers?
Look, we've been running the business for nearly 8 years, and the pace of innovation in the last 2 years has been absolutely incredible, way faster than it was in the prior six. And so just keeping on top of what's changing has been one of the hardest tasks. And so it's really about building future ready, not future proof, future ready applications and platforms for our customers. Just one example of that would be the cost of LLM inference. 2 years ago, when we all started using ChatGPT and equivalent models like Anthropic Claude, the cost used to be $50 per million tokens. Today, that's 50 cents. So that's a 100x reduction in the cost for the same quality. And now we've got new levels of quality which are being available. Today, we're seeing new innovations like Operator, like Deep Research, like DeepSeek, like multimodality capabilities from Notebook LM. All of these are being released at breathtaking speeds, which is frankly a really, really great thing for consumers. I remember going back about 12, 15 years when Uber started hitting the market and Airbnb. This was fantastic. You had new ways to get around a city, and you didn't have to go and hail down a cab or book one in advance, and you paid an extraordinary low rate for that cab through Uber. It was all digitally signed. That's what I'm seeing right now. There's this just huge amount of innovation going on. You may have heard of AGI, and this is the thing that's perhaps just around the corner. Apparently, AGI is going to completely change the way in which we all work, or we do things, or we understand the world around us. And so just being able to separate out the changes which are happening at the infrastructure layer from what I then put on top is the agentic architecture layer, which is then feeding into the application layer, We try to separate those things out. So we're continuing to uh, rely on continuous innovation at the infrastructure layer, and that's fantastic for so many uh, individuals and organizations. And as you're seeing that now with faster, better quality, cheaper access to knowledge and resources. Um, what we're also thinking about is how to integrate first and third party intelligence and the integrations that go into that, in particular, as we recognize that context is crucial. If you've ever asked one of these LLMs to give you an email or to help you write something, it will do a pretty good job. You have to give it quite a lot of information. It doesn't necessarily know you, so you have to tell it how to know you. And so this is really where we're seeing that context is critical. Another aspect is really then making sure that all of this is built in with flexible APIs that are interoperable with many systems. What we're noticing is that customers don't want lock-in. They want choice. They really want choice on data providers. They want choices on prompt management. They want choices on model, on the quality, the cost, the latency. And that's what we're really building. So it's exciting. It does require us to stay on top of a lot of this. And as I mentioned earlier, really thinking about being future ready rather than trying to be future proof.
Yeah, and that's great. And it's awesome to hear that, you're innovating pretty much every day and you have a great team to do it. I'm How is your team using Databook for their own roles? Because I'm sure, it's great technology besides testing and making sure the customers are happy. But how do you find value using with your own roles over there for your team?
Yeah, I mean, this is challenging because we're building the plane as well as then we're using it, we're sitting in it, we're driving it, we're piloting it, we're adding more engines all the time. So it's incredibly exciting to be doing. I'll just give you some examples. But as you mentioned, we're in the sort of nearing the end of the first calendar quarter of the year. Most organizations towards the last part of the fiscal year tend to focus on territory prioritization. Just as we did, we've been using a lot of AI to understand where customers in our ideal customer profile are engaged with our business and how we identify where there's propensity to buy. We're using that then to identify where there's a case for change, why, but they might even be interested in Databook or its applications, where there may be some go-to-market productivity goals and where they're investing into AI. We're using that with our AEs who are building out their account plans, their strategies, their contact strategies, their emails. And all of this is then compressing the amount of time it would otherwise take them to do a lot of that high quality research analysis to go and engage. When they go prepare for a meeting, they're using the AI to get prepared on the individuals they're meeting. When they go into the meeting, they're using it to generate the presentation decks and the first call materials for what they need going into that conversation. And as a follow-up from the call, then they're also using AI to then summarize and create next steps and best actions for customers. So there's a ton of use cases. I mentioned the one earlier around driving higher net retention as well. We're trying to adopt the technology as fast as we can build it. One of the challenges we have right now is how much we can build for ourselves internally, whilst also satisfying our customers' needs and building for them. So yeah, we're always struggling with prioritization, but that's hopefully gives you a bit of some examples of how we're doing it.
Of course. I love the examples, Anand, and I know you've shared a bunch already, but I think I would love to end the podcast with maybe I don't know if you have some of your favorites. You've been doing this a while, and you've seen the success that could come from the great emerging technology. So I don't know if you do have a favorite or some of the top ones that do stand out to you, but if you could share some of the key success stories that have exhibited this change, or even metrics from customers that currently using some agentic workflows,
Yeah.
and of course, what kind of outcomes or the value that they're seeing already.
Yeah, I mean, every company's got their own approach towards how they want to prioritize opportunities and identify opportunities near the beginning of the year to drive pipe generation in their business. One of our customers, top three cloud provider globally, one of the largest companies in the world, they have a system whereby they need to understand the value that they can provide to a customer by understanding their priorities, their initiatives, their needs, And so, what used to take an individual rep somewhere in the region of 4 to 8 hours, they can now get in about 2 to 3 minutes. What we found is when we launched this workflow for them with a small incentive, I mentioned earlier the spiff, we found that the spiff was a great way to drive activity and sharing amongst different team members. They were able to generate 4,000 requests within a 30-day period. The overall consumption went up 400%. The productivity in their business, I think they saved roughly around $3.5 million worth of time within that 4 week period, just in terms of what they would have otherwise spent doing both in January and February and March. They were able to do within a super short period of time. And some of the feedback we got from these users was fantastic. It really was great to hear them sort of just say that we're a game changer for them. We dramatically reduced their time for researching. We've helped them to complete 80% of the work that they would have to go and do. And they've been really pulling us into the next set of workflows, the next set of use cases that we can go and help them with overall, whether that's the first call briefs or that's more QBR presentations or helping them with white space analysis. It's great to see us be able to help customers, help users in the moments that matter to them.
Well, Anand, it's been great to talk to you and how you're providing so much value for your customers and how Databook is leveraging AI to empower organizations and deliver those tangible outcomes and talking about agentic AI and enhancing human capabilities instead of replacing them and of course what's setting apart Databook from perhaps other platforms. It's great to learn about the organizations who are leading the way in this space, and you're a great Millennium partner, and especially to you and to our C-level audience, and those who are attending the CRO assembly down in New Orleans this week. Uh, reach out to Anand. Make sure you talk to him because I had such a great conversation today. It's going to be interesting too. I hope we can get on a podcast even later this year, or at least next year to see how far uh, we've come in such a short period of time. So happy to have you again. Come back on the show. Anand Shah, CEO and co-founder of Databook. Thanks again.
Thanks, Connor. Thanks for having me.